What is up, everybody? All right, so we may not have anyone live for a minute, just because I'm not sure how much my marketing team put out. But this is going to be a live Q&A. I think we have someone here with us already. But if y'all have any questions, go ahead and post them in the question section. Oh, I'm not even plugged in on my headphones here. Y'all hear me? Let me know in the chat box. Y'all can hear me. I think the headphones are working now. So go ahead and type your questions. Like I said, I don't know how many people are going to join us live tonight because I don't know how much of our marketing went out. It has been crazy around here. I've been working. Nicholas, you are live. Welcome. I don't want to butcher your name. Jermaine Green, you are here. Welcome. Hey, I'm so glad to have you guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat box. I am really excited to dive into any questions y'all might have. And don't mind how I look. I'm in my camo and I've got bedhead still, even though it's 5 o'clock at night, my time. I got up at 5 a.m. this morning and went hiking with a good friend of mine. And I like to hike in camos so the animals don't see me as well and I get to see more wildlife. But that's why I look like a bum. And I promise I'm not a bum. I just look like one sometimes. So anyways, welcome. Super excited to dive into this and help y'all out. So I'm gonna dive into just a few questions that I've been getting this week through some of my social media. First one is one that I get quite often, which is real estate purchase contracts, and more specifically, wholesale purchase contracts. How do I get a wholesale purchase contract? Do you give away wholesale contracts for free? I don't give away wholesale contracts. I don't even give wholesale contracts to my paid students because I am a coach that's all about helping my students. So there is a lot of people that give away contracts as a way to gather emails for their marketing list. And it's a great idea, but I don't do that. And the reason for that is one of the number one things that you should do when you first get started is find a real estate attorney that understands wholesaling and can guide you in your business in setting up, making sure you're following all regulations and laws around wholesale in your market. And when you go talk to an attorney, that's one of the things you can get is a purchase contract. So it kind of forces my following and my students to go get an attorney and do this right? Because I believe in helping people. I don't believe in competition. I believe there's a ton of opportunity out there. But if we get a bunch of wholesalers out there that aren't following regulations and laws, it gives a bad rap for wholesaling and wholesalers in general. It actually hurts all wholesalers, right? Because the more we make it convenient and comfortable and easy and fast and awesome for our sellers, if we can make it good every time and make it fast and ethical every time, there's going to be more people that want to work with wholesalers. We get a bunch of bad wholesalers out there, we're going to have a long-term negative effect on what wholesaling is and legalities, and the division of real estate is going to come down on it. And we just don't want that, right? So yes, go out and get your own purchase contracts. Okay. It's so important. So I'm a coach for the long-term success of my students, the long-term success in the industry of wholesaling. So that's my advice there. Looks like we got another question coming. Go ahead and type questions if you have any. Looks like we got a great question here. It says, what's the best way to keep drivers motivated when you hire them for driving $4? So that's one of the main things that I talk about in my mastery program is how to build a driving for dollars marketing system that runs without you. And it cannot run without you unless you have a good team. And most importantly, the person in that team that drives for you. That's the first part of your marketing with driving for dollars is you have someone that's gathering that data that's out driving around. So how do you keep them motivated? Well, let me say this first. Your job as the owner of the company, your job as a boss is not to teach a work ethic. That's their parents' job, right? That was never your job to teach people core values and ethics, right? And things that people need to learn on their own or have their parents teach them. Okay. So one of the things that we talk about in the program is writing core values that is required to be a team member, regardless of whatever the position is, whether it's driving, cold calling, acquisition managers. You make sure you have someone that is a core value fit. And then making sure they're a fit for that, building your interview questions around that. And so that's what we do, is we find a good driver that is motivated in the first place. So you don't have to micromanage that person. Your goal is not to keep people motivated and make sure they're motivated. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I walk into my office and I coach. And I coach and I coach and I coach and I coach students. And then I go to my team meeting on Mondays. And I actually skipped today's meeting because I was on the mountain hiking with my friend, right? I don't even have to show up to my team meetings and they get run without me. I don't even run my team meetings, right? I don't manage the Excel spreadsheet for the team meeting. When they ask me what I'm going to do on it, sometimes I have responsibilities within that wholesaling business. Most of the time I don't. The only thing that I do in the wholesaling business every single week is look at my KPIs, my numbers of like what we're spending and what we're making. That's it. Right? I look at the health of my business through my numbers. I don't even prepare my numbers, right? And once a month, I sit down with my bookkeeper and look at where we're at overall for the month and do tax strategy. That's it. That's all I really have to do in my business. What's up, Ben Adams? How are you, brother? Saw you just jumped in here. Haven't talked to you in a while. But that's, talking about building a team of go-getters and people that really know what they're doing, as far as like work ethic and those core values, is you don't have to micromanage those people. Those people take responsibility for their positions and work towards building that business, even if you're not working alongside them, right? So what's most important is who you hire, and that is the first part of it. Great question. What is the going rate for an attorney to put together any type of contract? Joe. Yeah, I know who you are, Joe. So yes, a going rate for a purchase contract is around $1,000 to have a contract. Most of the time you're going to have a real estate attorney. So not all real estate attorneys even know what wholesaling is, right? I mean, not all real estate attorneys know much about real estate, to be honest, right? They know the traditional probate, they know the traditional eviction process, they know how to force someone to close on a contract if they're trying to back out and do the litigation process. But a lot of them don't know the creative side. They don't know the subject to and the lease option and the sandwich lease option and the wholesaling. They don't know the creative strategies around real estate. So you need one that knows what real estate wholesaling is, that is familiar with the stance that the division of real estate has on wholesaling in your current state. So what I mean by that is there's a branch of the government that regulates transactions, real estate transactions, right? Brokers and realtors, representing and sellers and buyers, right? They regulate all of that, right? What they can and can't do. And so some states have different regulations on wholesaling and how it can be done. And if you have a license or don't have a license, those regulations may change. So you need an attorney that's familiar with all of that in your state. So first you want to interview an attorney that they, first of all, know what wholesaling is. They know the processes, they know the creative side. They've worked with other wholesalers, and then ask them if they have a packet of all the contracts that you might need, which is, just your traditional purchase contract with the addendum. So you can do any type of creative seller financing through that addendum or what do you call them? Escrow holdbacks. We'll talk about those actually tonight. I want to talk about those a little bit more. And then also the contract for assigning the purchase contract, right? That's the other paperwork you're going to need, because once you put that property under contract and you have it under contract and you want to sell that contract, you're going to need that piece of paper that allows you to sell the contract you have to a different investor, right? So that whole packet I paid about $1,000 for, but they should have that packet on file, and they may tweak it just a little bit for you and your company. Okay. So yeah, you shouldn't pay much more than $1,000 for that. Ben Adams, hope you're doing good, brother. Hope you're doing good. Do you need to help your intent? Joe, I don't understand your question. You said, do you need to help your intent? So I mentioned that, go ahead and type your questions, y'all, if you have any questions. One thing why Joe's typing in what he meant by that question, I want to talk about escrow holdbacks. So I may have talked about them in another video, but getting into contracts, I want to break down what that is. So whenever we put a house under contract, there's a saying that I live by, that time kills all deals, right? So there's lots of sayings like strike while the iron's hot. Don't leave something for tomorrow that you can do today. Procrastination kills everything, right? And so once we put a house under contract, the longer we wait to get that property closed and money in your pocket, things can happen. Like a seller can die. If the seller dies, then it has to go through the inheritance process, and then you don't have a contract anymore, right? Like literally things like that can happen. I've had people die. And so you want to be fast as possible. So when there's a person that lives there and needs more time to move out, but you want to close it in a week, even though they need a month to move out, we do what's called escrow holdbacks, right? So what that is we put the property under contract, let's say for $100,000, right? And the payoff's about 80. So that means the seller is going to get about $20,000 roughly at close, because we have our buyers pay all the closing costs. So the seller's not surprised by some extra expenses, right? So they're expecting $20,000, and they say, well, we'd love to sell it, but we need a month and a half. And we say, well, we can get it closed sooner than that. We'll give you all of your money except a little bit of it that will hold at the title company. And then once you move out, you get the rest of it, right? But if you don't move out by X date, we keep, or the buyer keeps that. Fair? They say fair. We write it up in the addendum to the purchase contract, which is just the clause at the end that changes in, you can make any changes you want to the original purchase contract, right? And we just write down whatever we agree to. Then when we go to our buyer who decides that want to buy our contract and close on it, we explain to them, okay, listen, there's an escrow holdback. The tenant will be there, but for 30 days, if they're not out, there's $2,000 to $5,000 there for you to evict them, get them out, help move them out, and cover your extra costs for financing costs, right? But if they're out by that date, the money gets released to the seller, and they walk away, you get to do your flip, everything's done, right? So we've had one where we had a 45-day escrow holdback. We closed on it. We got paid our like 30-something $1,000. We were done. And then the cash buyer that bought our purchase contract had closed. It was like a couple of days till they were supposed to move out. He's like, dude, I haven't heard from the seller. I can't find the seller. I don't know what crap's going on. And he's like, I've put notes on the door. And so we actually went over there, and there was a lady there, and the guy had passed away. The guy that sold it to us had died, but all the paperwork was done. And so the new buyer helped move all the stuff out for her, and was able to get the money to the mom. But I think it's so very important to understand the strategy that time kills all deals. Don't wait to close. I have students and I've had people that get a property under contract and they're hoping to close in 45 days, 60 days. And it's like, that is very risky that deal can disappear. Something can happen. Seller gets cold feet. That's the last thing you want to have happen. You want to get that done as fast as possible. So looks like the question came in. I know it's different for each market, but generally when driving for dollars, how many houses does it take for a deal? It's a great question. I get this one very often. So I'm going to break down the math for you. Okay. So you do not want to spend more than 25 cents in marketing to make $1, right? So what that means, let's say you make $100,000 for the year, you should expect to spend as much as $25,000 to make 100,000. Okay. So let's break this down. So this is, so you can do the math in your own market, how much it's going to cost to do a deal in your market. Okay. And then how many driving for dollars properties do you need to add? So obviously these numbers will change if you don't know what the crap you're doing, right? If you don't know what you're doing with your marketing, if you don't know what you're doing with your negotiations, right? These numbers will change. So these are numbers that should hold true for my students. And I'm going to give a shameless plug right here. If you want to apply to become a student of mine, you can do so on my website at dfdmastery.com and book a call. I don't take everybody, but if you would like to apply to become a student of mine, I'd be happy to talk to you and see if we're a fit. If we're not, I can direct you to someone else that may be a better fit for you. But yeah, go ahead and book a call if you're interested. So how much does it cost? So this is, I'm going to give you some instruction. I hope you guys have a pen and paper ready. This is interesting stuff. I'm going to share how many properties it takes to find a property and about how much you can expect to spend to find a wholesale deal. And also what's the average deal size in your market. Okay. I'm going to show you how to break this down. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to Zillow. Okay. And find your lower income areas and look up single family homes that have sold. And, and I think it's usually Zillow's like last 12 months. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to find out what those properties are selling for on average, in those lower end areas. So you're going to see some that are like super high for that area, but you're going to get close to that average. So let's say, I'm going to break down the math and make it easy. Okay. Let's say those houses are selling on average for about $100,000 a house. Okay, so your average wholesale fee, how much you should make on the deal, is $10,000 on a $100,000 average house. That's 10%. So if you find that you're like in parts of California, it's $400,000, $300,000 on a low income house, 10% of that, right? So once you find your average wholesale fee, right, $10,000, you don't want to spend more than 25 cents to make a dollar, right? So to find 25% of $10,000, you times it by 0.25, which equals $25,000. Duh. So $2,500 to make $10,000. So you're going to need to spend about $2,500 per deal. If you're sending postcards, that's about half that, because it's about 50 cents a postcard. So you're going to be having to add about 1,250 addresses to find one deal, right? And spend about $2,500 on postcards to that list of 1,125. That's if your average price is 100,000. Right. So hopefully that made sense. You can go back and listen to this recording and watch that over and over, but that's a great question. Okay. So hopefully that helped answer your question. So it's what it is you find your average Zillow price, you times that by 0.1, you get 10%, right? That's your average wholesale fee. And then, 25% of that is about what you should spend on postcards. You divide that by 2, and that's how many addresses you should be finding to be able to find a deal. And like I said, if you're not very good at negotiations, if you don't know how to approach a seller, if you don't know how to talk to seller, if you don't know how to do all these things that I teach my students, right, that's really going to affect how well you do. You should be throwing money to the wind, right? So hopefully that helps. So Joe said, what I'm trying to do, the attorney may have other clients doing the same type of business. Exactly, Joe. If you can find an attorney that has similar clients, that's how I found my attorney. Is I found the other wholesalers that were very successful, and I asked them, I said, who are you guys using as an attorney? We went with that attorney, ended up not working out, and we switched. The other wholesaler ended up switching as well. So that's where we're at. Okay. Any more questions y'all have? I think I may have some more here that I jotted down. Have y'all seen my TikToks? Who's been watching my TikToks? I started TikTok, and I'm getting a ton of questions in there. So I'm actually just going to go down into my questions in TikTok. So one question that I got recently here on TikTok that I can bring up right here. This is actually a really good one. How do you do taxes and tax strategy around wholesaling? So here we go. Let me share with you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Okay. So well, my first 8 months, I was just running my business through my name, right? I was just paying taxes, earned income. I didn't have an LLC set up. And I suggest if you're just starting out, I wouldn't worry about an LLC. I wouldn't worry about any of this stuff. But as soon as you start making money, I would say set it up this way. Okay. And you could also talk to an accountant, confirm with accountant. I am not an accountant. Okay. I'm going to make that very clear. I'm not giving you guys tax advice or legal advice. I'm sharing with you what I think I understand. Okay. I don't know everything, but this is what I'm currently doing, what I've been advised to do by my accountant. Okay. So what I'm doing is I have an LLC that's taxed as an S corp. I had my accountant help me set up. If you ask me how to do that, I would say, I don't know, find a good accountant. Okay. And what I'll do is every single month I sit down with my bookkeeper who's separate from my accountant. Okay. And I go through transaction by transaction in my checking account, make sure there's no subscriptions I don't know about, make sure there's charges I don't know about, and then make sure they get allocated correctly to the different accounts that they need to be for. So whether it's like my marketing expenses or, office supplies, right? So I do that every single month, and we go through the month of transactions. That way, at the end of the year, it's really organized and clean. I also have a whole different company that does my payroll. And so I've set myself up as an employee to my wholesaling company, which is called Booth Home Buyers. Okay. So I get a W-2, I get paid a salary. Someone asked me what my salary is. I pay myself about $60,000 a year as a salary. Okay. And I pay taxes on that and everything else that's out of my Booth Home Buyers account. And then I pay myself a profit out of the money that's come into the company. Since it's set up as an S corp, I pay myself as an employee. But then the other money that I make is profits, and I pay myself a profit, which gets taxed at a dividend ratio portion, right? Which is like 15%, 20%, depending on what tax bracket you're in. So it's instead of paying like a really high earned income, because I am at a very high tax bracket, as I have investments and everything else that are cashing out. And so, I try and keep that salary as low as I can. So some people say, well, what do you need to set as a salary? What I've been told is it needs to be set at a rate that's similar to what someone else would be paid in that position. Right. So obviously the less you can pay yourself as far as a salary, the less you have to pay in taxes, because you pay more in paying yourself through dividends. So that's how I'm currently doing it. There are other tax strategies that you can take advantage of. There's a guy named Matt Sorensen. He's an attorney that's in Arizona, I believe. Paid like $500 to talk to him for like 30 minutes. Not cheap, but he's a very, very good accountant attorney. He also has, he specializes in like retirement accounts, IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, all those things, right? So he's taught me something. I bought his book and read his book. It puts you to sleep, but a lot of good information, right? So drink some caffeine and then read it. It's called the IRA handbook, right? So it's like white, it's like a white cover with like IRA handbook and like black bold, like writing, right? Super, super boring cover, super boring topic, but it's going to save me a lot of money. So in this book, it talks about the different strategies, what you can and can't do with IRAs and Roth IRAs and backdoor IRAs and 401ks and all those wonderful things, right? And what I'm going to do is set up what I already have done is I'm setting up a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k. Okay. And so what that does is it gets taxed when you make a contribution, right? But it doesn't get taxed on the way out. But the money that's snowballing in there, so let's say you make some investments or some deposits in there, you got to pay taxes before it goes in. But as it snowballs and then I take money out when I'm older, I don't have to pay any taxes. So all that money, all that compounding interest, I won't have to pay taxes on. So what I've been able to do is make very small contributions in there. So I have earnest money. I put a property under contract in the name of the Roth IRA or the Roth 401k. All right. Then that same IRA or 401k assigns that purchase contract to a flipper, and all the profits go into that Roth account tax-free, and they'll come out tax-free. I was advised not to do more than 3 of those per account per year, but that's 4 total accounts, Roth accounts that I have between my wife and I. So I can do 12 tax-free assignments per year. And my average assignment, well, I'm going to say my average, I'm doing assignments anywhere between like $5,000, and my biggest one so far for this year is $95,000. So I can put away a big chunk of change tax-free. I don't like that it's stuck there. I'm currently reading 3 other books to help with taxes as well. So I just got done reading a podcast book because I'm starting a podcast. Who's excited about that? I'm excited about that. I've hired the best in the business. I'm really excited. But I'm reading, once I get done with that book, next week, I'm starting a book called What Would the Rockefellers Do? And a few other books. And I'm looking into working with a new tax strategist as well. So those are the things that I'm doing to shelter my money and take advantage of tax strategies. Hopefully that gave you guys some input. So that book is called The IRA Handbook by Matt Sorensen, I think is his name. I'm pretty sure that's his name. Any more questions y'all have? I probably put y'all to sleep talking about IRAs and 401ks, right? Go ahead and ask any questions that you have. I'm going to see if there was any other new questions here that I thought were very relevant. And it's fun because I get a lot of these same questions in different platforms. Here we go. So one of the things that I get asked about a lot is cold calling. And when I cold call someone, do I need to know about the house? Do I need to know what I'm going to offer on the house? Right. And the answer is definitely not. So when I cold call, and so one of the things that comes included for my mastery program students is they get a full-blown cold calling course, exactly how I'm doing it, all of that stuff. Sorry, I should have brought my water in here. My voice is super scratchy. I've been talking all day. I don't ever shut up, I swear. So when I cold call, I don't know who I'm going to talk to. I don't know who's going to pick it up. I haven't cold called for a minute. But when you get on your cold calling platform through Mojo, you're calling 3 people at one time. And the way that works is you call in through your phone, right? But on your computer screen, you have the 3 numbers that you're calling with their names at the top of your screen. And it doesn't pull up who you're calling. You just plugging through. One of them will turn green and someone will answer, and you say hello, and you just go to town talking and going through your script, right? And as soon as they answer, it does pop up on your screen, all of the information, the address, links to Zillow, all of those things. And follow the script and ask them. The biggest thing that you're looking for is you're trying to see if you're a fit, right? You're not trying to convince people to sell them your house. That was one of the things that concerned me when I first got started was, are we taking advantage of people? Like, why in the hell would anyone sell me a house for 50 cents on the dollar? I don't know if that's okay, right? And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find someone that wants speed and convenience, wants someone that wants an investor, right? And people that want an investor are tired landlords, people that inherit properties. And so we're just looking for those people that just don't want to deal with an agent, right? Most people, when they have a house, they want to fix it up as nice as they can, list it with an agent, and squeeze as much out of it as you can, right? Fine. Like, that's great. Go with an agent. Don't work with me, right? But if you want speed and convenience, call me, we'll work, and I'll buy your house. And it's funny, like I had a cousin that called me up. I was able to use the exact same script for my cousin that I use for other people. I said, okay, great. Yeah, I would love to buy your house, but you understand that I'm an investor. I'm not going to pay like full retail. You know that, right? Yeah, I know that, Zach. Oh, okay. And he knows how much money I make. I all over social media blowing up how much money I'm making, right? And so I was like, okay, well, why don't you just like fix it up and list it with an agent? I don't want to, Zach. I just lost my job here. I've got a new job. I'm moving out of Beaver. I don't want it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me make you an offer. What do you want on it? Well, I actually just want like what I owe on it. And I was like, what do you owe? He said, this much. I said, okay, well, don't you need any money to move or anything like that? Yeah, maybe like $1,000 actually would be awesome. Okay, let me get you over a contract, right? It's the same exact conversation that I have. It's a little bit harder because you have to build rapport because you're calling someone completely out of the blue. And so they need to know that like, hey, you're just like the cousin, right? Like they need to feel like, hey, this is actually a decent human being. And so that's why it's so important to give them the options, and you share that they have options. So you say, hey, this is Zach. I'm not sure if I have the right number. I'm trying to get a hold of so-and-so. And I actually have another video on this YouTube channel of me cold calling live if you want to see it. So I'm not going to get into that. But that's how you cold call, is you just find people that want speed and convenience. Okay. It's that simple. General response rate. So response rates are going to vary depending on the postcard. So like if you do a picture of the house, your response rates go higher, but I think it's garbage because your conversion rates don't go up. You just spend more per postcard, get more people to say F you, and you don't make any more money. You actually just spend more. So I have my students get my exact postcards, just like a handwritten font. We want to buy your house at this address. If you like an offer, send us a call or a text. Pretty simple. Our response rate right now is about 1%. And I've seen it, as low as like 0.5% to as high as 2%, depending on your market. The thing you need to look at though, what's the data that's more important than response rate is the conversion rate. So let me give you an example. If you get like 0.5% response rate and you spend $10,000 on postcards, but you made $100,000, but you have less than 0.5% response rate, do you care what your response rate is? No, because you just made $90,000 above the 10,000, right? You got your 10 grand back and 90 grand. Like, does it matter? It doesn't matter what your response rate. What matters is your conversion rate. And so be careful when you decide not to do postcards, because you send 1,000 postcards, you spent $500 or $400, depending on what you're spending on postcards. And you go, I only got a 1% response rate or a 0.5% response rate. This postcards don't work. It's like that's not enough data to decide if it's going to work, right? So that's my 2 cents on response rates and postcards. Okay, I have time for one more wonderful question. So if you guys want to type in any questions you might have. Here we go. Here's a funny one for you. So I did a video. Someone asked me on TikTok, like, what happens when you get a property under contract and you can't wholesale it? Like, let's say you get it under contract, you're under contract too high, and you do your inspection period, you inspect the property, you have your investors in, you inspect it, and they're contractors, and look at their financing, and you start getting offers where you're going to lose $10,000 if you purchased it and sold it, right? So you're under contract too high. Then what? And it's like, it's very simple. You cancel the contract. And on TikTok, I only have 60 seconds to teach, right? Each video can only be 60 seconds. So I said, it's very simple. You cancel the contract, no skin off your back. That's why I love wholesaling. There's no risk, right? And some smart guy said, I love it because I get so many trolls on my social media stuff, and it just makes me laugh. But he said, yes, you do. LOL. You have a deposit that isn't always refundable. I just recently lost $10,000. I've made way more, but it's still money lost on a deal. It sounds like this dude needs a mentor. And because I've lost earnest money, but it was when I was working with real estate agents through the traditional route of buying properties, right? Because they're going to make you put these astronomical high earnest money deposits, like 10,000, and they're going to have short terms on when you can do your inspections. And some of them say they're hard, hard money, or your earnest money is non-refundable. They have really crappy terms, right? So if you do it right, you're not going to lose your earnest money. I put about $500 down a deal is all. And I give myself at least 3 weeks for my inspection period, and usually about 4 weeks on the close date. But we try and get it done out of our hands in 2 weeks. So that's the goal for us. Someone asked, how did I get started? Mike asked, how did I get started in the business? Well, I was a window washer and I was sick of it, right? I was sick of washing windows. There's nothing wrong with washing windows. I washed a lot. I made a lot of money doing it. Relatively speaking, nothing close to what I'm making on wholesaling for sure. But I did okay. And I learned a lot. I was my own boss, created my own schedule, but I had some major issues physically. My shoulder was going out. I didn't like it anymore. I was not interested in the business anymore. And more than anything, I couldn't really provide the life I wanted for my family. It's not like I live luxurious. I drive a $3,000 car. I live in a middle-class neighborhood. Like I don't want to be, I'm not flashy, but like I couldn't take my family on vacations. I couldn't really afford the kinds of adventures, and, I couldn't go to Alaska every year. I couldn't do what I do now. Right. And, so I started looking into more options and more things. I spent $10,000 on my first wholesaling course. Once I learned about it, I was like, this is it. I'm going to do this. Lost the 10 grand, never got a lead, never got a deal. Very discouraging. Gave up for a little bit and then decided to get back into it. I found a new mentor, Tom Kroll. Love him to death. He's a good friend of mine at this point. Truly, truly a good person. Paid $9,000 for his course, and I learned a lot. In a month and a half, I did my first wholesale deal, made 10 grand, and walked away from my window cleaning business just before then, and did just shy of 6 figures in the first 8 months. And then the next 12 months after that, just shy of $500,000. 12 months after that, we did 1.2 million, and that puts us in our current year. So we're crushing it. We're moving forward. But that's how I got into it. It was the best decision of my life for sure. I love it. I love the industry. Now we're in 2 markets. We're here in Utah. I'm in Tampa as well. I have a team down there. So I absolutely love it. And then favorite deal and a deal that I lost. Well, I think when you first start, I'm going to tell you about a deal that I lost because it was educational, and I think it'll be really relevant to a lot of you guys that are just starting. I'll start with the deal that I lost. So when I first started with Tom Kroll, he taught me, how to find leads and do deals. And the first lead I got was an older lady, and she had an 8-plex. It was an 8-unit apartment. And it was like an old giant house that had like 8 units in it, and it had one giant boiler. So like had one mass heating system, and there was no separate electric meters. So I learned a lot about real estate actually from this deal, because once I put it under contract, I had to understand how to answer questions that my investors and my cash buyers wanted. And I had 8 units I had to get an inspection on. So I had to go through tenant by tenant and line things up and try and get it all on the same day. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And I ended up getting offers in, and I had, my highest offer was $10,000 under what I had it under contract for. And so I had to go back to the seller and see if she'd renegotiate. And I said, after inspections and everything else, like, I'm under contract too high. I would lose money at this. I was like, I need you to come down. I tried to get her to come down 20 grand and then 15 grand. And then I just backed out of the deal. So that was kind of sad and frustrating. The first contract I got, I wasn't able to move. But I think it's something that happens with a lot of us when we get started, especially we don't know how to comp things. We don't really know what our investors will pay for something. And, that just comes with time and experience. And so that was kind of a bummer, but it was it was awesome, at the same time. And then I'm going to tell you about one of the coolest deals we did this year. Um, like I said, my biggest deal so far this year is 95,000. It's going to be my biggest deal yet. And this is kind of a complex deal. And the best part is I didn't have to do any of it. My acquisition manager did. So I have a rock star who does all my appointments, all my contracts, all my negotiations, does all the disposition, meaning he finds the buyers for him and shows them and does inspections and all of that stuff. Right? I don't have to do any of it. So what he did is he had a property under contract where we wholesaled the property for $70,000 to our flipper. So what we do is we have one guy that flips houses and partners with us, right? And so he gets to look at every single deal. And let's say we get offers on a house, and our highest assignment on this one, our highest offer was we were going to make $70,000. His name is Brandon. So Brandon comes in and goes, I would pay the $70,000 assignment fee, and I would split the profits on the back end, right? And if he doesn't want the deal, he says, yeah, just assign that one. I don't want it. Right. So he says, yes, I'll pay you guys 70 grand for this contract. I'll do the flip. So we got $70,000 up front. Like I said, it's a $95,000 deal. So we're going to make another $25,000. It's closing next week. We're going to make an additional $25,000 selling it. We only thought we were going to make another 15, but we're able to squeeze another 10 grand out. I'll explain how. So Hayden had someone in our follow-up that he'd been following up with for about a year, meaning they said they would like to sell. It's a beat up, like fixer upper. We know we need an investor. We'd love to sell it. We just want a bigger house. We want somewhere to go before we'll sell it. And so he's been following up. And he's like, hey, these people said they need a bigger house. This house that we're fixing up is still at a low price point once it's fixed up, but it's way bigger. And it's not too far from where they have their house. So he called them up and said, hey, we've got a house that we're remodeling right now. Would you be interested in looking at buying it? We may just end up listing it, but if you decide now, we can get you approved for financing, approved for the loan. We could buy your house that you're in to make the transition seamless. Plus you guys could pick your paint and floor colorings and all those wonderful things. So you guys can kind of customize your new house. And they said, yes, of course, we'd love to do that. So we cut out the fee to the real estate agent by bringing the buyer, which put an extra 10 grand in our pocket. So it's going to be 95. And then on their house, we have already done that part of it. We're going to make $38,000 on the house that we bought from them. So altogether between the two properties, we're going to make, what is that? 132,000. Did I do the math right? $133,000 between the two deals. So that was a really good deal this year. That was a fantastic deal. And the best part is doing deals like that is really fun and awesome financially. But the best part of all of that is, I get all this experience to be able to help my students, right? And like hearing students do their first deals is honestly more fulfilling to me than me doing my deals. Of course, I like making money. Of course. But you guys will understand when you start doing deals, that first deal is like life-changing. That second deal, you're like, oh, wow, I wasn't just lucky. And then the third deal, you're like, oh man, we're going to make a habit of this. And then you start doing deals and you're like, man, I don't want to go on appointments anymore. This sucks. I want an acquisition manager. Right. And then the deals kind of start to blend in. That excitement, that fulfillment starts to leave a little bit. But when you coach someone else, when you help someone do their first deal and they're like crying and grateful and like, what it means. Like I get emotional just telling you this, like, what it means to that person's family. The life that you just changed in the children's lives that you just changed. Like that is so much more fulfilling than me making money. Yes, I always want to make money. Yes, I love making money. Yes, I love the freedom of money, but coaching people and helping other people, that's the best. That is the best thing in the world. That's more fulfilling than me doing deals. So those are always my favorite deals, is my students doing deals. So Justin Dallinger just did his first deal. So I have a picture of all my students in my office. And as soon as they do their first deal, I help them get their first deal. I take them out of my office and put them on my success wall. So I was able to move Justin this week, and help her the week before. And, my goal is to get to the point where I'm moving at least 5 students out of my office per week onto the success wall. So we're at about 1 to 2 a week right now. So we're not quite to where I want to be, as far as like helping people, but we are getting there. Also keep in mind, I do have a free wholesaling course on my website at dfdmastery.com. That's dfdmastery.com. If you guys want to get access to all the free resources, including the course, just go to the tab that says free resources. Or if you guys would like to book a call to apply to become a student of mine, I'd be happy to jump on a call, or someone from my team to jump on a call and see if we're fit. So anyways, I think we're going to wrap it up. It's been a wonderful 45 minutes with all of you. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions. God bless each one of you and your families. Best of luck in your businesses. And we'll catch you on the next YouTube live. We're going to do these twice a month. We're going to do them on the first Monday of the month and the third Monday of the month. Okay, perfect. God bless. Have a wonderful night. I'm out.